My partner and I moved our family to Hamden in 2008. We chose Hamden because it was halfway between our jobs, it had a diverse population, and relatively good schools. We thought Hamden would be a good place to raise our children, so we bought a house and settled in. But after living in Hamden just a little while, I realized that yes, Black and brown people lived in Hamden, but Hamden was run like a whites-only club. This is a story about regular people running for office and using the power of the ballot to build a beloved community.
When the shooting first happened, the response was constantly, well, we don't have the power to do anything. That's not my job. The mayor would say it's the police commission's job. The police commission would say it's the chief's job. The chief would say it's the union contract. Where does the power actually lie?
People were saying that many of the people on the town council and the Democratic town committee were kind of rubber stamps, not really making the kinds of changes that needed to be made in Hamden.
It's difficult to really talk about in a cut and dry way because I was with that old slate. I don't think at the time when I was coming into it, I understood that my peers on the council were as adverse to challenge as they were. There was a sense of comfort and trust in a system that was not trustworthy. There was a sense of trust in a leadership and administration that was not beholden to all the citizens that I felt that we should be beholden to.
The 2021 campaign really started in 2019. We had to build a really big team. And that team didn't just include the Board of Education and the Legislative Council. It also included getting more progressives into the Democratic Town Committee, which is the local Democratic Party in Hamden. And their job is to endorse candidates to run for political office and then also help get them elected.
The DTC was very white. The average age was several decades older than myself. I'm going to be 42 later this month. I'm trying to think if there was any person of color in that room, maybe one or two, on a 63-member committee.
63 members spread across 9 districts, so there are 7 people in each district, and each district has a little caucus.
In the past, the process for the caucus was a notice 24 hours before. Those in power knew what was happening. They organized a small group of people to show up, and typically those people maintained control. There were no challenges, there were no alternative slates. I'm not even sure that they followed their own rules at those meetings.
And so we've changed that so that now you have large groups of people showing up to support candidates to be on the Democratic Town Committee. And there's so much more democracy that goes into that.
If I have an idea about something, I'll start that idea. But then there is the art spirit that can change things and move things around. So you have to be flexible enough to let it happen. Because I find if you don't let it happen, if I fight it, it just doesn't work.
I only have a few memories of my childhood in Virginia before moving to Connecticut. But one thing I remember is being taught to be proud of being Black. We had to get full on our mother's pride before going out into a community that really didn't think too highly of Black folks. My siblings and I were taught that white folks were not our friends.
I was born in the 40s, and we grew up in a time when, although people thought Ohio was racially, economically equal, it really wasn't. And people had that impression because slaves came up to Ohio, and that was a place of safety. Although there weren't any signs that said colored here or there, you knew your place.
In South Carolina, my family worked in the cotton and tobacco fields. My initial experience in school in South Carolina was in a segregated system. And when I came to New Jersey, it was segregated there too. My mom and 3 or 4 of her female friends had been arrested for protesting the segregation of the school system. She wasn't going to settle for being a second-class citizen.
At one time, Hamden went out looking for people of color to teach at the high school. When I came in 75, we had Beverly O'Connor, a person of color, teaching in the English department. Barbara Chapman was in the history department. Richard Jacobs was the chair of the science department. But then Dr. Comer came in. He came in and did a workshop for the teachers, and he talked about the browning of America. And all of a sudden, it's like everything just started to change. It's almost like people were frightened. And teachers retired, they moved, they did what? And then when they were replaced, they were replaced. I don't know when it happened, but I turned around, looked around, and I just saw a speck of pepper and a lot of salt. I was the only person of color in the classroom for years.
They had the spring musical concert. My son was in the 4th grade. He was all excited. He was in the barbershop quartet, so, made him a little handlebar mustache. He had a little jacket on, bow tie. I said, well, what are you singing? He said, oh, we're singing Moon River and something. I said, oh, okay. So we get there in the auditorium, and my Black neighbors were sitting next to us, so he handed me the program. He said, did you see this? The barbershop quartet was singing Mammy. My husband said, well, what are we gonna do? He said, we're gonna walk out. I said, well, we can't walk out and leave our child on the stage, so we let him go. He's just singing his little heart out. Mammy, my. He didn't know any better. He had a good time. He was singing his heart out. Well, I just wrote a nice letter to the music director at the school and to the Board of Education. You put Mammy with Moon River? Okay, that didn't make any sense to me.